Yesterday we began this sample with the invisible circular cast on. Today we're going to continue it to make a circle shaped with spokes radiating out from the center. Our spokes are going to continuously be knit stitches, but the stitches in between the spokes that are going to form the wedges, if you will, they'll be made with a garter stitch ground. Yesterday I showed you how to use your yarn tail as a round marker, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to bring my yarn tail to the front, and we're going to do our first round of increases by doing knit and purl into the front and back of each stitch. This sample is going to have a lot of plain knit rounds, and it's going to have several rounds with knits and purls in them. So I'll be stopping the video every so often so that the video is much more efficient for you to view. So we knit into the stitch, bring our yarn forward, and purl into the same stitch to do our increase. Knit into the front of the stitch, bring the yarn forward, and we also purl in the front of the stitch as we normally would when we're approaching a stitch to purl it. I'm going to stop the video now. I'm going to finish this round, and then I'm going to do our knit round. Our knit round is done, and we're going to do the next pattern round. Our spokes have been established. You can see that we've got the V of the knit stitch here, and that where we purled into the same stitch on the previous round, we have a little bar which gives us like a purl bump on the right side of the fabric. The next step in the process is to continue that rib. We're going to do this round without any increases, and we're going to do knit purl on each of the 4 needles all the way around, and we're going to follow that with a round of plain knitting before we do the next increase round. So I'll do 1 needle, and again I'll turn the camera off and do the plain knit round and finish this round before I come back to do our next increase round. We're now ready to start our next increase round. Between every increase round on this sample, you're going to do a knit round and then a pattern round, and a pattern round will be knit the spoke stitches and purl the wedge stitches in between, followed by another knit round before you do the next increase. The style of increase we choose to do with our spokes can make a difference in the appearance of the work as well. There are many ways of doing double increases. We can do them by purling, knitting, and purling into the same stitch, but that might stretch the stitch out. For this style of circle, I'm going to choose to do a closed increase, which means I'm going to use a make one. A make one increase is made by lifting the bar from in between the last 2 stitches, placing it over the needle, and in this case we're going to purl it. So I want to lay it this way so that I get a little twist in the stitch. Oops, and I'm going to purl it, so I've got to come underneath and bring my yarn over my needle. So I purl that make one loop, and now you can see it's got a nice little twist in it. And then I'm going to knit my spoke stitch. Now I'm going to do a reverse make one purlwise. I'm going to lift the bar between the 2 stitches. I'm going to lay it over my needle the way I would my other stitches, and now I'm going to bring my yarn forward to purl, and I'm going to do a right tricky little maneuver of purling through the back of the loop. So I put my needle tip in there, then I get it in between the twist of the stitch and purl and take it off. And what this does is it mirrors the way the bar comes up, and it gives me a purl stitch on each side of my spoke, which gives me my double increase. And it means the bar on this one goes this way, and on the other side it goes the other way. It just gives it a nice little neat finish. You can do them all the same way if it's easier for you to do. Our ultimate project of a Halloween trick-or-treat bag isn't going to be that important. So if you don't want to be as particular as to mirror the increases, that's perfectly all right. Now we're going to purl the wedge stitch from between. Then we're going to repeat the process. We're going to do our make one purlwise. Our yarn's already at the front, so I just have to put my needle tip in that loop and purl it. Then I'm going to knit my spoke stitch knitways. Then I'm going to lift my bar, put it on the needle the way I normally would see a stitch on my needle. Bring my yarn forward to purl that stitch and purl it through the back of the loop. And then I purl that last stitch because it's actually a wedge stitch. I'm going to repeat the increase process on the second needle. I'm going to lift the first bar and put it over the needle opposite to where our stitches normally lay. I'm going to purl into that stitch, knit the spoke stitch, lift up for our next increase, and that one's got to go the way we normally see our stitches on the needle, with the right leg at the front and the left leg at the back. Bring our yarn forward, take our needle tip through and purl that. Then we purl our wedge stitch and we repeat the process. We lift one, put it over the bar, over the needle opposite, purl that, knit the spoke stitch, lift our stitch and put it over the needle the way we normally see it, purl that through the back of the loop, and purl the next wedge stitch. I'm going to complete this round, and then, as I said before, the following sequence up until the next increase is going to be knit one round, and then our next round will be purl one, knit one, purl three, knit one, purl two, and then you will knit another round. And when I've done all of that, I'll come back and we'll do the next increase round. Our 3 plain rows between our last increase and the next increase to come have been completed now, and you can see a little more definition. You can see the spokes coming out, and you can see the wedge stitches in between. Our next increase round is going to begin with a purl one. Again, our increases are going to happen on each side of the spoke stitch. So we're going to purl one, do our make one, knit one, make one. Then we're going to purl three, and again do our make one, knit one, make one, and purl the last 2 stitches. You'll notice that whatever stitch is on the front end of the needle and the 2 stitches after the spoke on the other end of the needle equal the number of stitches in your wedge that's actually on the needle. And that's because we're forming these wedges out, we're splitting our wedge stitches out onto 2 needles. So again, we're going to begin with purl one, and we're going to lift our bar to do our make one, knit the spoke stitch, bring our yarn forward because the next stitch is going to be purled, put our loop on the needle to do our next M1, and I'm going to purl that one through the back of the stitch. You don't need to do this if you want to just do the same, make one as before. I'm just a little particular and I'm making it mirror on either side of the spoke stitch. Then I knit the 3 stitches, lift our bar to make 1, knit the spoke stitch, do the next make 1, and I'm going to do mine through the back of the loop. And purl the last 2 stitches on the needle. Again, you repeat this process on each of the needles around, and you'll follow that with knit 1 round, and then the round after that will be purl 2, knit 1, purl 5, knit 1, purl 3. So we'll have 2 and 3 is 5, and 5 wedge stitches in between. I'll go away and knit that, so I'll do a knit round, a pattern round if you will, another knit round, and come back for our next series of increases. Our next series of resting rows have now been completed, and we are really now starting to see the shape of our spokes coming out from the center of our circle. The next set of increases are also going to happen on either side of the spoke, and this time we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches in between the spokes and the make ones. So we're going to have purl 2, make 1, knit 1, make 1, purl 5, make 1, knit 1, make 1, purl 3. I'll do the first needle again, and then I'll go off camera and knit the following knit round. The round after that will be purl 3, knit 1, purl 7, knit 1, purl 4. Purl 2, make 1 purlwise, knit the spoke stitch, lift for our increase, our next make 1. This is going to be our make 1 purlways through the back of the loop, purl 5, make 1, knit the spoke stitch, bring our yarn forward for our make 1 purlwise, and purl 3. Having done this knitting on this needle, you can see what we have set up for our next pattern round. Purl 3, knit 1, purl 7, knit 1, and purl 4. And again, we have 7 in the middle, so we need to have a total of 7 on each end. We've got 3 and 4, so it's all going to work out fine. Continue on with a knit round, the pattern round I just described, and another knit round, and I'll come back and we'll prepare to cast off. We're ready now to begin the last increase round of our sample. There's a couple of things I want to point out to you. The first thing is that you'll notice that our stitch marker is getting a little bit lost down here towards center. So if I was going to carry it forward, if I was worried about it, I would bring it forward, and just now I've got a nice span of a large loop that I can see when I'm coming toward the end of my round. The other thing I want to point out is that we are getting a little jog in this one wedge, and that's from the transition from our garter stitch, from doing the purl round and onto the next knit round. We usually get a jog in our rounds when we're doing circular knitting of any type. It's just that this one's a little more noticeable because we're also changing the type of stitch. So our final increase round is going to be purl 3, make 1, knit 1, make 1, purl 2, 4, 6, 7, make 1, knit 1, make 1, purl 4. And again, we can do our math. However many stitches we have in the center should equal the number of stitches we have either side of the spoke stitch at each end. Again, I'm going to do the first needle, and then what I'm going to do following that is I'm going to do my plain knit round, then I'm going to do my pattern round, and my last knit round is actually going to be my cast off. Begin with your purl 3, lift the bar for your make 1, knit your spoke stitch, lift the bar for your make 1 through the back of the loop, purl 7, do your make 1, knit your spoke stitch, lift for your make 1 through the back of the loop and bring your yarn forward to purl. Complete the make 1 and purl 4. Just to recap, once I've completed this round, I'll do a plain knit round, then I'll do a pattern round of purl 4, knit 1, purl 9, knit 1, purl 5. And following that round, I will do the cast off. I'll complete that work off camera and come back and show you the finished sample. Now we can see our finished sample. We can still see that little jog where we transition from purl stitches to knit stitches on our garter stitch rounds, but we can also see our nice neat wedges and our handsome little spokes. I hope you've enjoyed knitting this sample with me.